everyone to The Clear Perspective. We have been on a break for the last couple of months. And so we are so excited to be back on The Clear Perspective. And we have such a special guest today. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here. I couldn't imagine a better person to come back live on the podcast with as a guest. So welcome to The Clear Perspective podcast.
Hey, thank you, Allison, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here too. One, because I think that what you're doing in the industry is so needed and so cool. And two, I just love talking about this. So let me give everyone kind of an introduction and where we met. I always feel like that's kind of cool and important. The dental industry is so small and everyone knows each other, but I always like to share where I've met people. And so Chelsea, she is the founder and CEO of the Dental Life Coach, and she has coached hundreds of clients individually and in group settings to facilitate personal and professional transformation, enabling doctors to achieve their highest potential. She is an emotional intelligence expert deeply rooted in the dental industry. She's an author, speaker, and entrepreneur, and she also hosts the popular podcast for dentists, Dental Brain Crops with Chelsea Meyer. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. And this conversation is something that I think is just so important. So someone, I don't know who it was, told you that you needed to meet me. And so we were at the dental festival just a couple weeks ago, and this beautiful lady comes up to me and she's like, "Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm a dental life coach. And I was told to meet you." And we just hugged, took pictures together. And we were like, what are we going to do together? Because obviously we're going to do something. And so that's kind of the story of how we met, but it was so good to meet you in person at the dental festival.
Yeah, you too. It was actually Dr. Corinne Devon. She was like, "Hey, make sure that you run into her. She's she told me, she goes, she's your blonde sister."
I
And I'm
love
like, okay, awesome. Yeah. So I noticed your red lips as I was passing by and I was so excited.
I love that. I always I started off wearing red lipstick on my Instagram trainings and Zoom stuff. And now everyone's like, "I know you buy that." So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I have to wear them all the time now. So
Yeah, it's perfect. It's beautiful. And it was very easy to identify you. So yeah, keep doing it.
I love that. Amazing. So my first question for you is how did you get into being a dental life coach? Tell us your story.
Yeah, thank you. So I was at Wells Fargo Bank and doing some professional coaching with the team there and getting some really fantastic results that a nearby manager we shared the floor with noticed. And he was like, "Hey, what are you teaching that team? And can I learn it too?" And so I worked with him and coached him. And at that point was starting to put together, a system, noticing patterns and really the infancy of my curriculum. And he said, "Hey, you've got to talk to my dental buddy." And so that was actually my foot in the door with dental. And it was a fantastic marriage because not literal, but professional marriage, because I got to learn a lot about dental and the dentist got, the transformation that he was looking for, which opened my eyes to this industry of really fantastic, wonderful, talented people who are sometimes without the leadership, emotional intelligence, and mindset training that they really want and need to do the things they're trying to do in their practices. And so, from there, I continued working with more dentists and got really, really interested in the dental industry, actually partnered in a handful of practices and some other dental businesses, and really got to see firsthand not only what a day in the life is like for a dentist from a different lens than I'd ever had, but also how this training is received and applied in the dental industry. And so that was really fantastic for me, very formative, and it allowed me to really refine my curriculum and the things that I teach, the things that I see, which now I've broken down into 13 pillars of entrepreneurial intelligence. These are the things, not everybody has every single one that they need to work on, but within that realm of 13 things, we're going to find what's holding you back and figure out how to get you where you want to go.
I love that. It really is one of the big, as coach myself and as somebody that's been in the dental industry for over a decade, it is the biggest thing that we can help shift to create change in the industry. It's just the mindset and the leadership skills. And it creates such a ripple effect, which is why I'm so excited about it. The dentist is usually the employer of 5 to 25 to 35 team members. And if you think about all of their family and all of their friends, and when we can change that one mindset or skill set in the sense of leadership and create a better working environment and a better culture, that just creates this ripple effect throughout the entire industry, the entire it makes a huge impact. And so I absolutely love that you're here to serve and to help the industry because it is so needed. And so like, how do you see from your perspective when you're working with practices and organizations specifically, like how do you help them achieve higher levels of success? Like, what are you typically seeing?
Well, the environments are really fast paced. So our brains are constantly observing and concluding and suggesting action based on our perceptions and programming. And so it's really, really important that we're not only intentional about what we're thinking, but also selective about what we're choosing to believe about situations, because our thoughts create our feelings. And then from there, we take action. And the reality is that our team members, they're not mind readers. So they're not in our heads understanding how we got from point A to point B. They're only action observers. They see how we're acting and responding. And so, two things: we've got to be people that other people want to be led by. And then we've got to make sure that we're strategic in the actions that we're taking, because those are indirectly telling our team members how they too could respond or could react in a situation that, and they're looking to us to show them. They want to be guided, they want to be led, they want to be developed. And when their leader is acting and being a certain way, they're assuming that must be the best way to handle those situations. So it's really important that we're aware of what we're projecting.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you just like said so many like nuggets. One of them that I want to like kind of just dive deeper into or like
Yeah.
double click on is the thoughts that we're thinking create the emotions that we're feeling, which create the actions that we're doing. And that is such a foundational aspect of how we operate as human beings every single day. And like one of my slogans in clear coaching is humans first, like hashtag humans first, because the end of the day, we're all in this very fast paced, sometimes chaotic, very stressful environment, operating on our thoughts, which create our feelings, which create what we're doing. And when we don't have a powerful thought, or when we're not in the habit of asking if our thoughts are helpful, if they're even true, if they're real, then sometimes we act in ways that is almost unconscious. And I think that is one of like the foundations of like very basics of leadership and of personal leadership that is just so powerful for us to understand. And I remember like when I think it was one of my first times in therapy years ago, my therapist was like, "What did you think about that thought?" And I was like, I don't think it's my thoughts, I just have them. And I think
Yeah.
very often that's the case, but it's this power that you can have when you start to address and understand, like, what is it that I'm thinking? And are these thoughts really serving me? So I love that you said that it's such, you know, it's such a powerful thing. And so like when you see your teams or your leaders changing the way they think, how do you see that affect their leadership skills and style?
Oh my gosh, it's tremendously impactful. When you said your therapist asked, what did you think about that thought? One of the things that we uncover is that, when we're growing up, we have a thought and it sometimes sounds like our mom or our dad or some other authoritative figure. You can almost hear their voice in your head. And then as you grow into your adulthood, you hear thoughts again. And a lot of times they sound a lot more like our own voice, which makes us automatically believe them without that questioning aspect, without, that was fantastic coaching that your therapist said. What did you think about that thought? And really encouraging that curiosity
Mhm.
and that discovery process of, is this something I want to continue to believe? Is this even true? Is this just a fleeting weird thought? I mean, if I thought about throwing my phone out the window, I could have that thought, but is that a believable thought? Is that a good thought?
Yes.
And so I really like that. I really like that coaching that she gave. And, as our thoughts change and we become more intentional about them and more deliberate about the types of emotional fuel that we want to operate from, which of course, again, is related to our thinking. I think that our leaders are much more impactful because you can say less and show so much more of what you're hoping to portray and inspire within our team members. When you go from being a doctor or a dentist to a dentist who coaches and a doctor who leads, the results are just like you said, the ripple effect is astronomical.
100%. And I think that's one of the things. And so like all my doctors that are listening right now, like one of the things that I notice a lot when I start working with a doctor is like, there's almost, I think imposter syndrome is maybe not the right word, but there is very much an imposter syndrome when it comes to dentists moving into leadership positions, because you're
Mhm.
simply put there, you go finish dental school, you know, buy a practice or even as an associate, you're a leader. Like immediately, you're just like, somebody just gives you that title, like you're a leader. And I think sometimes when we don't like have that time and space to really acknowledge, okay, right now, I am now a leader of this entire organization, of this entire team. We don't like step into it in the same like energy and intentionality, like you were saying, as we otherwise would if we like signed up for a leadership job. But as
Mhm.
a dentist yourself, you are a leader because everything that you do impacts everyone in the practice. And you are like the driving force of the practice, the vision, the mission, everything. So it can be a lot of pressure, but I also think it can be a lot of opportunity and a lot of ways that we can make it really exciting. And so, that's something that I encourage all of my dentists is like just to own that space. Like you are a leader and your thoughts and the way that you think about even yourself in that position are going to allow you to elevate to a completely different level. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it comes back to really understanding the way that the brain works. And so when we start discovering the thoughts that we have in that pattern that exists, I have this thought, which creates this emotion, we can really decide if we want to keep that pattern in existence or not. The slippery slope can be if we repeat a thought, feeling, system a number of times, what can happen where originally you're having the thought and then the body obeys with creating the feeling of frustration or anxiety, it can kind of flip flop where you've repeated that enough times to where I see my trigger and automatically I'm in anxiety mode before I ever recognize that I've had the thought creating the anxiety. It's subconscious at this point. And we do that when we're in high stress environments, when we're in fast paced environments. It might be a patient that you prefer not work with or a team member that drives you crazy, but we're having those reactions instead of responding in a way that is conscious and planned. And so I really think that any sort of training we can have where there's developed self-awareness allows us to step into the type of leader that we know that we want to be and that we can become. And then it also allows us to coach our teams so that they can step into those leadership roles as well. And I really mean that in every single position in the office, we need to be owning those roles and having a higher level of accountability, not to just our organization or the doctor, but to ourselves and how we're really executing in those positions. And that's only going to come if you've got a strong leadership role. And then, the other thing to consider is that our team members have they have a different level of tolerance for chaos, for stress, for dysfunction in an office where a doctor or an associate may be able to handle those things for a longer period of time or a higher level of intensity. Our team members may not. And when I talk to team members who are leaving positions, you know, the pretty picture is that, oh, they're leaving to go get, they've gotten a promotion or a raise at a different office. That's not always the case. In fact, a lot of times they're leaving for a job that's further away or even a lower paying position. They're leaving because of their perception of their experience in our offices. And so it's really, really important that they feel like they have an approachable, adaptable leader who is encouraging to them, that allows them to autonomously, but allows them to grow within their position and access the supports they're needing to become those people.
Oh my gosh, that was just gold, like pure wisdom. I love that so much, especially right now, because I'm sure you've heard and everyone's heard there's this mass exodus of team members. Where do we find team members?
Yeah.
And it's a problem. And I think that's something that we have to remember. It's not just, in fact, like I agree with you 100%. It's not really about the money. It's about the way that they're experiencing being in that role and in that environment. And so I think, an action item that somebody can take from this call is to think about that with their team, or this podcast is to think about that from their team's perspective. What is my team experiencing when they come into this office as a team member? Do they have the opportunity to grow? Do they feel like they can be a leader in this position? And do they feel like they can come to me for support when things are not going well? And if you can do that self-audit right now, you can probably put out some fires that are on the way. So I absolutely love that. I honestly feel like I could talk to you all day because this is my favorite topic in the world. But I'm going to just ask you one final question and then get your contact information so people can find you if they're interested in furthering their personal development, getting some training. I want to hear everything that you're doing in the industry right now to serve and help, because it is So needed. And so my final question is, in your zone of genius and what you're doing in the industry to serve, what does success look like to you?
For me, I want to lift and bless others. And so, what I found my zone of genius or my most effective route is helping others step into the leadership role that they know that they want. And that looks different for different people, but developing that self-awareness and that confidence and that sustainable energy behind creating the results that they want in their life, that's what we do at Dental Life Coach.
I love that. I love that. So how can people find you? Where can they find out more information about you?
Yeah, thank you. So we work with executives, doctors, and teams, and they can come to dentallife.coach, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Chelsea Myers, Myers.
I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I want to honor you for everything that you're doing in the industry. It's so needed, and it's so, like, sometimes I think when we think about personal development, or we think about growing, or we think about coaching, we can feel like, oh, it's going to be hard and it's going to be a struggle. But I really think that this is some of the most important work that we'll ever do, as an individual, stepping into our leadership capabilities, and also to really like influence and impact the team that we're leading. And so thank you for everything you're doing in the industry. Thank you for your time today. And guys, go and check out Chelsea. Go learn more about her. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good day, Allison. Thanks for having me.